These Panthers on a bathroom sink. Her mother would be so proud. Gets on a deed and there's a line to go pee, but the bathroom looks like a war zone.
Welcome in to episode 108 of Phired Up. Check us out at firedupsports.com. I'm Mike Giletto. Dom and Chris could not join us tonight, so we had to make a call to the bullpen. Don from Drunk on Brawl. What's going on, man?
What's going on?
Not much. Thanks for joining us.
No, not
I
too
really
bad, man.
appreciate you. I'm doing fine. The one question I had for you before we kind of get started into Philly sports topics, what's going on in the state of Florida? Between the Miami Heat, the Florida Panthers, it's crazy down there. Craziness.
I don't fucking know, man. It's fucking frustrating as hell because you look at it and you're going, I heard someone talking about it the other day. They're going, oh, they could have, 2 parades within the same week. And I'm going, what the fuck, man?
I know, yep.
Like what? Who did we fucking piss off? That what sports god did we piss off that like we can't get out of the second round in almost a decade?
Yep.
And here we got Jimmy Butler that we essentially cast aside for Ben Simmons and Larry Brown, or not Larry Brown, Jesus Christ, Larry Brown. Fucking, I'm all fucking turned around. But like you essentially you let him walk, and he was the dude.
Yeah.
Like, playoff Jimmy is a whole different animal, man.
Oh, seriously.
He's fucking fun to watch.
He really is. Oh, it's great. And like this comes off of like you go north a little bit in the same state of Florida, like the Lightning and the Bucks just having like a few years of success and dominating. And the whole entire state's just been insane.
For a while, they were called, what were they called? Champa Bay?
Yeah, yep.
Good God.
Yep.
Well, the next thing we know, the fucking Jaguars are going to be
let's not get carried
Super Bowl.
Let's not get carried away.
Nah, I know. Hey, listen, we're always drunk over here.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
And listen, the Panthers Kane series is a fucking wild one. You got the other game, the game the other night that ends at what 2:00 in the morning,
2:15 in the morning, I believe it ended. Quadruple overtime. I think there was like less than 10 seconds left in the fourth overtime when that goal scored.
That series is wild, and like it's the only thing that sucks about the Stanley Cup playoffs is the fact that you got teams that are like not really hockey towns per se.
Right. Yep.
The teams that are out west, you got teams that in the east, nobody really is essentially a hockey town, and nobody from Canada.
Nope. So you have Florida, Carolina, Vegas, and Dallas as your final 4.
Wow.
So
out of those 4, what's the most hockey town out of those 4?
It's a good question. I would say that's a good question. Carolina probably has. I mean, they don't have any sort of history, but at least they've won it fairly recently. So maybe you'd go Carolina, but no, maybe Vegas because they've kind of exploded since they've came in the league. That they're kind of it's a tough one.
But there's not there's not this really like diehard fan. Like
no,
the Carolina fan base is a good diehard fan base. But you're right. Like Vegas is new. Dallas is just kind of there.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that for me is missing from the playoffs from the Stanley Cup is that there's not your traditional teams are not there.
Yeah, the New Yorks aren't there. Toronto's never there. Let's be honest.
Toronto's never there, right? They just fire their GM.
Yeah, did you follow that whole story? It was very odd.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I'll give you the kind of the cliff notes of it. He was a lame duck GM, didn't have a contract next season.
Okay.
He had the end of the year press conference. They basically asked, what is your intentions? Or do you plan on signing an extension? And according to the president in Toronto, they said, up to that year-end presser, we were going to give him a contract. We were in negotiation. We were going to give him an extension. And then during the end of your press conference, the GM, Kyle Dubas, basically said, honestly, this year/years with Toronto is taking a real hard toll on me and my family. I don't know if I want to come back to this next year. And then apparently the next day or 2 days he talked to the president and was like, all right, let's do this. And then the president, Brendan Shanahan, basically said, you know what, it seems like your heart's not really in it. I don't really want you for the job. I don't think you're fit for the job. It was the complete 180. It was nuts.
Wow, because he's been there. I mean, he's been
there for nine years. Yep.
I was gonna say he's been there a while.
Yep, 9 years.
They've brought in a handful of good, like they've made some really solid in-season transactions. What's going on, Chris? But I don't know. I mean, listen, if there's anything I'll say, man, if your heart's not in it, just walk away. You're probably better off. The team's probably better off, and
yeah, it's just a crazy 180. He was like in negotiations, and the year-end presser, just completely made him lose his job.
That is
basically.
wild, man.
Yep. So now his team that he built, he's not going to be able to kind of see what needs fixing, and he's not really able to right a ship. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm enjoying. I mean, I'm enjoying the hockey playoffs. The first round was great. The second round, every game seems like they were blowouts. But the third, so far this round, every game's gone into overtime. It's been a great third round. It's been awesome. I'm flipping back and forth between the Florida Canes game and the Phillies game, which not looking so bright, or not looking so great for the Phillies. Dude, what's going on with the Phillies? I mean,
it's look lost.
Yeah, like it's kind of the same story every year where they get talent and they're just a 500 team. Like they'll win a couple, they'll lose a couple. They'll win a couple, they'll lose a couple. I don't get it.
I think the frustrating thing for me is right. It seems like it's like a repeat of last year.
Yep.
Like because they kind of lingered in this weird like world where like they were like sucky and not being productive and not getting offensive production, or they would get offensive production and the pitching would suck, or the pitching be great and the offense sucked. And it's kind of the same thing, right? You've gotten decent starts, but then you get shut out. You get, the other game, they get blown out and then they score 10 runs the next game. Like it's and then they come back on Sunday and they win 2-1. Like the lack of consistency is what's really, really frustrating. And it makes you question a whole lot, because it's like, you added a lot of production into this lineup and Trey Turner, and he seems to me like he's struggling. Like you would have thought coming out of the gates, the way that he kind of the production that he had in the World Baseball Classic leading into the season. There was a stat, and I saw somebody, I don't know who pulled it up, but they had his stats during the World Baseball Classic during 11 games were comparable to like his stats right now in the first 40 games. Yeah,
I did see that. I'm trying to pull it up. Phillies Muse, I think, posted it.
Okay.
Because I did see that. It really is crazy. I had it up somewhere. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. So this was, I'm trying to see the date on this. The 19th. So the last couple games aren't involved in this. But at this point, he played 44 games for the Phillies, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs. And in the World Baseball Classic, he played 6 games, 5 home runs, and 11 RBIs.
I mean, he was on fire.
Yep.
And I think you're seeing a lot of like, he's productive early in the at bat, and then just seems to start chasing pitches as the at bat evolves, and then he ends up in a position late in the at bat where he's just, it's a lot of swing and miss stuff that I would have never thought I would have seen out of him, because you, as a Dodger, you didn't see him have these really, really unproductive at bats.
Yeah, that's a thing, is like, you think at first I was like, hey, maybe he has kind of the Castellanos effect, where Castellanos coming to a new team, struggles, trying to find the right rhythm in the new spot. But like when Turner went to the Dodgers, he didn't really deal with any sort of slump. He was an all-star. He was great.
Right.
So why is it now that he's struggling?
Right, and he's coming back to the East Coast. He's correct me if I'm wrong, he's a Florida kid.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
You would think that coming back East Coast wouldn't be as big of a deal. Now Like, and the irony is that he's not stepping into a lineup where he's got to be the dude.
Right.
Like, he's stepping into a lineup that is top to bottom could be essentially really productive. And it's just not playing out that way, man. He just seems to be like just searching. And I thought it was smart the other day when they give him a day off.
Yep.
Right. Just take him out of the lineup.
Yep.
But even if you got to mix that stuff in, man, I think for me, I'm looking at this and going, I'm gonna kill myself saying this, but like, it's still early. But I also understand that there's only so much I don't have much window left to be able to say that, because the weather's going to start getting warmer. I really do think, though, that this team is going to play much better in those June, July, August months when it's super hot. Ball's going to fly out of there, where this team really excels, which is just mashing the ball.
Yep.
I think once you're getting a lot of the guy that surprises me a lot is Stott. Stott is the hitting streak to start the season, the way that he's been productive in the field, him essentially taking over the top of the lineup. It's just it's a really cool thing to see for a guy that young.
For sure, and that's kind of one of the parallels off of the Turner thing is you were able to move Stott to second base, take more pressure off him as a fielder, and maybe that's what's helped his bat. Now he's been great, and then he pinch hit home run the other night. He's been great. He's taking the next step. I'm seeing people compare him to Chase Utley, which is, that's crazy praise. Who knows? We'll see. It's early in his career.
It is early, but like if you think about the roster that Chase Utley stepped into.
Yep.
Right. Chase Utley stepped into a lineup where, he walked into a situation where his playing partner up the middle, Jimmy Rollins is a guy who's an established leader, right? That he can come into a lineup, not have to be essentially relied on to be uberly productive and get on base. And he stepped into that role.
Yep.
In fact, probably kind of picked up the slack where Turner has kind of, slacked off. And that can only benefit this team as they play through the summer. And the sad thing is, though, is that they're essentially playing for that wild card already.
Yeah. Because
the Braves are playing really well. They got a ton of talent, man.
Yep.
I would love to see them kind of string, like, what this team really needs is like a 10-game winning streak.
For sure. Definitely.
They need to just start, especially with and you would have thought, with teams like the Cubs and the Diamondbacks, you can string, 5, 6, 7 wins together. Yeah. And to see them go out and struggle against the Diamondbacks tonight, man, that's, it's still the bottom of the 8th, so they still got they got to finish this inning and they got another at bat. But this team, they need one of those things where they can start feeling themselves.
For sure. And you don't really have, like last year they were playing this way because you said it reminded you of last year, and I agree. But like last year they were able to make that managing change, the manager change. They don't have that to do this year to kind of spark the club. Like Rob Thompson's not getting fired.
No, he's not.
Yeah, like as skeptical as I am of every move that he's made last year and this year, he's not getting fired. Maybe they have that conversation if this continues in the next season, but he's staying for the year. There's no questions about that. They don't have that to kind of spark them like they did last year.
Right. Yeah, they're it's going to have to come internally.
Yep.
And at some point, I don't know, when Harper can come, when he can come back and play in the field, what does that look like? He's not going to play the outfield, so he's probably going to be playing first base. Do they go out and get is the in-season move to get a guy at first base? Because I think the thing that not a whole lot of people are talking about because he's not on the field and it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, is how much this team really misses Rhys Hoskins.
Oh, totally, absolutely. And I know. I mean, I've been critical of his glove, but his bat they've missed a ton, especially in the middle of the order. Like Schwarber, I know. I mean, he always hits the home run here or there. Schwarber's been really struggling. JT's been struggling a lot. Castellanos was really good at one point. He's kind of in a little bit of a slump.
Right.
The middle lineup definitely misses Rhys, absolutely.
Yeah,
and it kind of sucked the way that happened.
Yeah, and for that to happen so close to the beginning of the season, with no real, and then the injury, they plug and play Derek Hall, and then he gets injured.
Yep.
The fact that Cody Clemens is getting meaningful at bats this early in the season kind of tells you all you need to know about how much this team is really struggling, to get the production out of that position.
Relief,
and I think they're trying to be
pitcher Cody Clemens.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother conversation. The amount of times that they've had guys that are position players pitch this year already.
Yep.
I mean, talk about a dubious record. They're probably going to set. They could be on pace to set the record for most. I wonder what that is. Most position. I don't know.
Players. I have to look it up. He's made 3 already?
Ooh, hold on.
Can you find Cody Clemens' pitching stats? I'm sure that's a thing, right?
I'm sure it's a thing. I'm just going to go to the regular stats, and I'm going to go to the team pitching stats.
Okay, I found it.
He's got three appearances.
Yeah, 3 appearances, 1 and 2/3 innings pitched, 1 strikeout. Look at him.
Yeah.
5.4 ERA.
The fact that you've got multiple position players with multiple appearances,
right?
It's not where you want to be this early in the season.
No, and we've kind of so far spent all of our time talking about the lineup, and honestly, I don't think the lineup matters that much if their pitching continues to just be bad. Like this team doesn't have a shot to win anything if their pitching can't get it together.
No, and the fact that you're missing Alvarado now, like you're
getting a little bit from Kimbrel. He's been better recently.
I'll tell you what, if you're out there, if you get a chance, go read the article that Eric put out about the season that Kimbrel's having right now, man. It's a really good article. It's got some really good insight into, the kind of, I'll say the undercover production that he's really putting out there. But he's one that is a guy that had a rough start, but really surprised me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's been real good. Soto's been kind of hit or miss, I feel like. He's had some good moments, had some bad moments. I don't really know.
Everybody's so inconsistent.
Oh, totally. But and you expected the back half of the rotation, like the Walker and the Falter. I guess who is their 5th guy now? I don't even know who their 5th, because Falter obviously gets down, and
they're also throwing in like a bullpen game.
Yeah,
but
we knew that was going to be sketchy. But the fact that Nola and Wheeler, I don't know what to make of those two right now. Nola, it seems like every other game is decent. But Wheeler, I don't think Wheeler. I mean, is age starting to play a factor in Zach Wheeler? I don't know.
Or are you starting to see the effects of a long postseason run?
Sure, could be
right. They played well. Obviously they play well into the postseason.
Into November. Yep.
Into November, right? And then to turn around, what essentially is 4 or 5 months later.
Yep.
Are you seeing that really play a factor in this pitching staff, right? Because you see, the Ranger Suarez injury early, his start gets delayed. I wonder where does the turnaround happen?
Well, yeah, that's why I think, and we're talking trades, and maybe they do go out and get a first baseman or another bat, but I think pitching's just starting pitching is a much bigger priority for this team.
Yeah, and listen, as we sit here, right on, the late May, the Braves sit 5 games north of the Mets, 5.5 north of Miami, and 7.5 north of the Phillies.
Yep.
And that lead is not going around because they're getting guys back.
Yep.
They're going to get healthier, and the Mets are going to get healthier too. So, and the hard part about that is that, like, now that that's in the like, now that you're essentially taking yourself out of the out of the division, right? And now you're playing for wild card, and you're essentially
that's two teams. Yeah, those are two teams that you just mentioned. Who was it? Marlins and the Mets that you're gonna have to battle for wild card spots. And then I think there's a few teams above you there. I think the Diamondbacks are above you. I think the Pirates are above you.
Yeah. So right now that wild card. And obviously, right, the way too early wild card standings, right? But you got Arizona, Pittsburgh, the Mets, Miami, San Fran, and then you, right? And then behind you, you got good, teams that are good on paper, right? San Diego's right behind you. St. Louis is behind you. Like, you've got teams that may just be playing poor early.
St. Louis is one of those teams. They were dreadful the first month or two of the season. They've been hot.
Mm-hmm.
They've been hot. So, Arenado's finally starting to hit a little bit. Watch out for St. Louis.
You had a chance to kind of separate yourself, and even if you weren't going to catch the Braves, to just kind of separate yourself from the rest of the pack.
Yep.
And they just the way that they were able to just drop games early with, like, stupid shit, just it's maddening because it puts you in a position right now where you're essentially battling the rest of the National League.
Yeah. Yep. And it's frustrating because the team is talented. Obviously, like, I think they do have former and future All-Stars all over the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just boneheaded mistakes like base running, fielding, bad. Like swinging at balls and chasing pitches and just boneheaded mistakes. And I don't know how much of that is coaching and managing, or if it's just for whatever reason it hasn't worked out. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say.
Yep, totally.
It's a long season though, people.
It is. But that's the thing. Like, I was starting to say, like, early in the season when everybody's panicking, in early May, I was like, all right, everybody calm down. It's early. This team will get back on track. Now I'm sitting here. It's almost June. Starting to get close to not being able to say it's early anymore.
Yeah, listen, Mike, I will officially say this. I cannot say that it's that there's still time. Yep. Like, it's starting to get warm. The bats need to start coming alive. They need to, and they really need the bats in this lineup to carry this team.
Yep.
Like, they need to have more games like they had on Saturday where they put up 10 runs.
Yep.
And then they don't have to stress the pitching staff because the pitching staff is obviously struggling.
Yep. Well, that's the thing about the consistencies is, like, they'll go out and put up a 10 spot, and then they'll put up 2. Then they'll put up 8. Then they'll put up 1.
And then they'll get shut out.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. Then they'll put up another 7. And then it's back to 1 or 0. Like, just no consistency in this lineup.
It's so frustrating.
The Diamondbacks extend that lead. So, Phillies are going to have a miracle to win tonight's game.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
So... All right, from one depressing story to another, the Sixers. So last week on our show, we kind of were calling for the firing of one Glenn Rivers. They waited until the day after. Oh, it's an error by who was that? Clemens. They waited till the day after to make the announcement. Glenn Rivers fired as coach of the Sixers. I mean, it had to have happened, right? Like, it's. And which is the weird thing is I don't think he coached a bad series.
No,
I really don't.
I don't think that. Here's the irony in all this. I think he probably had his best season coaching this year.
Yeah. Yep.
But I also think that they realize that this team needs a different voice. They need something else, and you're not getting rid of your MVP. You're not getting rid of your young, talented player.
Yep.
You knew, I think everybody in that building knew that they know that James Harden the likelihood that James Harden comes back, as much as Daryl Morey is completely infatuated with James Harden, I think everybody in that building knows that if James Harden has his druthers, he's going back to Houston.
Those stories came out in like January. We were hearing those stories,
like
December,
like
even.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Like Christmas, the Christmas Day game, they were talking about it. So like, there's nobody else to change.
No.
And I think the craziest thing to me throughout this entire playoffs is all the coaches that got fired.
Yep.
Right? Budenholzer gets fired. He's won a championship. Nick Nurse is available. He's won a championship. Monty Williams is available. He's a guy. He's led the Suns to the top of the West for the last couple of years. Who am I missing? Like there's a lot of guys out there.
Yeah, according to Woj, it was Budenholzer, Sam Cassell, Mike D'Antoni, Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, and Monty Williams up for the coaching job. I'm fine with anybody except Mike D'Antoni.
That's the guy I want as far away from that complex as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Because if he's here, he's going to damn sure make he's going to damn sure make sure that James Harden's here.
Yep.
And if James Harden is not going to sign anywhere unless he signs some 4-year, $200 million albatross of a contract.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And it's hard because James Harden probably had one of his best years in the last couple of years, leads the league in assists. But I think you saw playoff James Harden in that Celtics series, right? You saw him be complete feast or famine. He was either scoring 45 and nobody could guard him, or he was fucking Casper the Ghost and he was nowhere to be found.
Yep. And it's what he does in his career in the playoffs. It's just crazy. It's
just spent like the amount of time that in the games that they lost that I watched him, like it felt like he was fucking dribbling the air out of the ball.
That's one of the things why I think firing Rivers makes sense. And obviously, if they didn't get out of the round, I think he was going to be gone regardless. But the fact that you're up 3-1 3-2, game 6 and 7, the body language and effort were dreadful.
It was bad,
Sixers. Awful. Like they just didn't seem ready or prepared or want to play the games.
I'll never forget sitting on my couch watching Game 6. And if you remember early, they're down 13, 17.
Dude, the first 5, 6, 7 minutes, they look terrible.
They battle all the way back.
Yep.
To the point where it's tied with 6 minutes to go, and at one point they're up 2. And then they just go on that. They go on that 5-minute stretch where they don't hit a bucket, and there's no plan. There's no timeout. There's no pause to get a play. And the fact that you got the MVP with 5 minutes to go, and I think you spoke the body language from everybody across the board. And as much as I hate the Celtics, Jason Tatum, for him to have the game that he had in Game 6.
Well, it's funny. I don't even want to call it a game. He had one great quarter. He was great in the fourth quarter.
But what I'm saying, when I say he had a game, when I look at the game that he had up until that point where he rises up in Embiid's face and buries a 3 with zero hesitation, he was 1 of 14.
Yeah.
And he rose up like he had already put up 51.
Yep. Which he did 2 nights later.
And then he does it 2 nights later, right? But then he hits that 3, and then he hits 2 more consecutive possessions with 3s. And the Sixers go from up 2 to down 4 in a matter of 55 seconds.
Yep.
And it was over.
Yep.
And the hard part for me with Game 7 is that I felt like I never even got I never got stressed. I never got the chance to enjoy Game 7. And Mike, if you had told me that I would turn off Game 7 in the middle of the third quarter,
wow,
I would have I don't turn the game off when they're playing the fucking Charlotte Hornets on a Tuesday in November.
Yep.
The fact that I turned off because they were down 35,
they
get outscored 33-10 in the third quarter.
Yep.
And 3 of those 10 points happen within the first 10 seconds of the quarter.
Right.
I can't wrap my head around. I literally, Mike, I turned that game off in the third quarter, and I literally checked out of sports for like a week.
Right.
Yep. I did. And it was great because the Phillies were on the West Coast, so those games weren't coming on until like 10-10.
Yep.
I listened to like classical music, like no words. I didn't want anything sports related to even pop up.
You went on a sports sabbatical.
I felt like I was Aaron Rodgers. Like I was in the cave, just like I realized I'm in as a sports fan in this town, it's a toxic relationship.
Yep. Like very love-hate relationship. Yep.
It was
it's like why do we care? Why do we put ourselves through this? You know what I mean?
It was maddening, man. And
but honestly, I feel like they lost the series in that like final 5-6 minutes of the game 6. Like at that point, they were done.
That 3 possession stretch with Tatum,
yep.
It was done. Because at that point, you had the Tatum game, and where they could, if they step on his neck, man, and they score on any of those possessions, and they get any kind of separation,
yep,
that series is over.
Yep, yeah.
And you let him breathe. You let him get back, and at that point, he's the kind of player, man. He has kind of that persona, that Jimmy Butler persona. Like, he'll step on your neck when he wants to. Now, in this Heat series, he's almost fucking disappeared.
Yeah.
Like his fourth quarter stats in this series are fucking atrocious.
Yeah.
But that's the hard part that I don't, and you know, the off season should be interesting. You know, you'll I'm sure you'll probably find out who your coach is within the next 2 weeks.
If you had your choice, who would you go with?
I like Nick Nurse.
I think he makes sense.
I think from a getting the most out of your players perspective, you know, when I look at the roster that he coached in Toronto that won, they had Kawhi, and
Kawhi was great, obviously, but
it was Kawhi and it was a bunch of dudes, and he got every fucking ounce of talent out of every dude on that roster, right? Look at the guys that contributed, right? Fred VanVleet, you know, I think Gary Trent Jr. was on that team. You know, OG Anunoby, you know, Pascal Siakam. He's got these guys that, you know, at the time aren't, you know, top-notch talent. They're guys that he just got uberly productive. And that's the guy that's at the top of my list. I know there's a lot of conversation about Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell's, in my mind, he's collateral damage. He's been with Doc Rivers for the last 10 years as an assistant coach. And for me, nothing against Sam Cassell. I just need a different voice. I need somebody that's not in that coaching tree. I need somebody who's not – I got to go completely outside the organization. So Nick Nurse is a guy that I like. But if it's Monty Williams, if it's Mike Budenholzer, I think if you can walk away with one of those 3 guys, I think you're looking at a coach that can be really productive and get guys in a place where they can really contend in this East. Because I think the alternative is, you know, be in the 7, 6, 5 seed and just kind of linger in there, which is where this whole process started. They started because they were that middle of the road playoff team that was always contending, but never contending.
Right.
And I certainly don't want to go back. That's the trade Embiid conversations make no sense to me.
Zero. Like, when's the last time a team's traded an MVP the season after he wins it? It just doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. And not for nothing, but like you're never gonna win a trade where you trade away the best guy.
Agreed.
The team that gets the best guy in the trade wins the trade, regardless. Yep. Right? And even as much as crap as people give James Harden, the Sixers won that trade.
Yep.
They got a lot more production out of James Harden than they were ever going to get out of Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and who was the other guy they sent there?
Andre Drummond.
Oh, sure.
And Seth Curry's the guy I'd like to bring back.
Sure, yeah. Be a nice little
he's
bench
the guy that I think that they really missed. Out of all the guys that they missed that they traded away to the Nets, I think Seth Curry is the guy that they missed the most because he gave them a ton of space out in the 3-point line, and they've been trying to replace him for the last season and a half.
Yeah, very true. What do you think the roster looks like though next year? Like, say James Harden does go back to Houston, I think it does leave a hole because I think this team's worse without James Harden because of how much production he had this year. How do they fill that role?
I think you try to load up on as many wing guys as you can. You try to get athletic. You try to get as young and as athletic as you possibly can.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some guys. I'm trying to pull up some guys to.
Or at that point, do you just kind of give the keys to Tyrese Maxey and say the team runs around you, like you run this offense basically?
If he can, he's got to get better at being in control.
Yep.
If he can be in control of himself as he's going to the basket, I feel like there's times where he is, but then there's so much time where he's like. It feels like out of control, and he's just
a little bit. Yeah, but the spaz of his game is kind of what makes him who he is, though. At the same time, you know what I mean?
But like, I would love to see him like maximize that speed and be able to get off the dribble and get into traffic. More often, but be in control. But like, I look at the list of guys that are free agents coming up this year. It's not great.
No, we were reading off the list last week. It doesn't seem great.
Russell Westbrook. Chris Middleton is a guy I would have interest in.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of Kyrie Irving chatter.
Yeah, I was about to bring him up. I have zero interest in Kyrie Irving. Like, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. I think he's another stone cold loser.
Yeah. On the court, 100%. On the court, he's the exact player that needs to play next to Embiid.
Yep.
As a point guard.
Yep.
But all the other ancillary shit,
yeah.
I have zero interest in it. But like, Porzingis, D'Angelo Russell, Kevin Love, like the guy that I just mentioned, Fred VanVleet is a guy that might not be a bad guy to play next to Embiid. But you're going to have to fill out the rosters with guys. All right, so here's some guys that are like a little further down on the list. Kelly Oubre, right, who's a young athletic wing, is a 3-ish ND guy.
Right.
Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Clarkson, like guys like that you can kind of load up with the athletic wing part of your roster. And then I think Tobias Harris is a guy, he's getting the expiring contract this year. That to me is an in-season move.
Yep.
That's a contract that you try to swing in season because, and there's something I heard somebody talking about you have to have a certain amount of max deals on the roster. I think you got to have at least 2.
Really?
I think you have to have at least 2 guys getting a max deal on the roster at one time. So if James Harden leaves, you still have Tobias Harris and Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
But if you trade Harris, you have to trade him for a guy that's also a max contract guy.
Interesting.
So,
it's a weird rule. I don't like that.
It is.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It has to do with like the salary floor. Like
I get
having
that.
to spend a certain amount of money.
Yeah, because they want the bottom teams to not be dog shit. They want some sort of parity. Yeah.
Correct.
Even though they're dog shit regardless, but like it doesn't do a whole lot. Yeah.
They're going to be dog shit, but they're going to be paying guys a lot of money.
right, exactly.
Makes no sense. But those guys like that, I'm sure that they're going to have to be really creative.
Well, the one name you hear a lot, and it'll take a lot, and I think you'll have to you're doing the gesture right now, is Dame. You're going to have to trade Tyrese Maxey, though, if that happens. I think, at least.
You would have to include, I'm sure that Portland would want Maxey in that deal.
Yep.
I'm sure that they would want picks that they don't have in that deal. Like you'd be trading picks in 2029, 2030. And at some point you do have to think about the future. I know that this league does not build through the draft, but it's just, to me, it's a guy that like, I don't know. And that the intrigue of pairing him with Embiid is really enticing. And I don't know if his heart is super in it because he's wavered back and forth. He and Bradley Beal are guys that I love their game on the court, but their indecision about committing to their city.
Well, I think they're guys that want to stay loyal, but realize if they stay loyal to the places that they're at, they're never going to win anything ever.
Nah.
I get. Like, it's, especially in the NBA, I mean, it's really hard to win in a small market. It just is.
Yeah, like you're I'm trying to think of a small market team, like the last team to do it and be really productive. Like off the top of my head, I'm thinking like San Antonio.
Right.
But
they had generational talent on those teams.
Right, but think about like they went from David Robinson to Tim Duncan and then into Kawhi Leonard. Like they had,
and now this next new superstar that they're going to get.
Yeah, and then now they're going to get Victor Wembanyama.
I was not going to say it because I would have butchered it, but sure.
I mean, but I think for him on a completely separate side note, probably going to the best position possible.
Yeah.
In terms of going to a coach that's going to just develop the talent.
Right. It's a good spot.
So, yeah, I think it will be an intriguing offseason to see how creative they get to build this roster, though.
Yep, not for sure.
So,
want to talk a little Eagles with you. Before I do that, forgot to do it off the top. Got to mention our sponsor, Manscaped. Summer's coming. Are you ready to unveil your beach bod? Manscaped is here to ensure your body is ready for the wild with their game-changing full-body grooming and hygiene products. Don't be the guy at the beach with Austin Powers chest hair. And if you grow some winter man tits, the least you could do is make sure they're hairless. It's time to get ready for the hot guy summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code Phired Up. So check them out at Manscaped. So the Eagles, obviously, the NFL released a schedule last week. And did you have any takeaways from the schedule? Well, we broke it down on our show last week. But did you have any takeaways, a prediction, record, anything?
I did have a couple of takeaways. One, you realize they only play 3 1:00 games?
It's crazy. But that's what I mean. It's a little bit of respect. That's what happens when you're good. It's a Philadelphia team. Like, they want to put them in the prime time slots. I get it.
So they're gonna there's a ton of 4:00 games. They have 1, 2. They got 3 Monday night games, and then they got the Thursday game. I hate the game on Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's a 4:00. It's a 4:30 game on Christmas.
I mean, we're all gonna watch it. Let's be honest.
We're 100%. We're all gonna watch it.
We're gonna have to piss off the families for that one.
Correct. Yeah. And the other thing that I thought about was like everybody that works there, right?
Yeah.
Those game days, having having worked on the ground script for the Eagles in a former life, those game days start at 8:00 in the morning.
Yeah, you really don't think of it that way. Yep,
Like the stadium workers are going to be down, even though that game is a 4:30 game. Those stadium workers are going to be down there at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. So, and it's on a Monday too. Like it's a Monday 4:30 game.
Right.
So it's like, it's just another way for the NFL to just assert themselves and just say, like, even though the NBA has really carved out Christmas Day as like their like that's their spotlight day, right, where they normally put 5 like really great matchups on.
Yep.
The NFL just like threw the entire set on the table and was just like,
no, guys, don't forget about us. We're still the big dog in town.
Right. But I like where the bye week is.
Yeah, but the next 4 or 5 weeks after that is a tough.
Because you're going to need it.
Yeah.
You're going to need it, and they're going to need to capitalize early. Like New England, Minnesota, Tampa, Washington, the Rams, Jets, Miami, Washington, and Dallas.
Yep.
So,
which, by the way, my prediction, I have them going 9-0 into the bye week.
You might listen.
The best team they play there is Dallas, week 9, and I think it's a toss-up game.
So
I think they win.
I think I hate the way that they start this. I hate the fact that they start the season in New England on essentially what is Tom Brady retirement night, and then you come home and your home opener is a Thursday night.
Yep. A Thursday night home opener, so dumb.
Yeah, that to me. So there's parts of it that I like, but then that second half of the schedule.
Yep.
They're going to have to stack the wins early because and the thing that I worry about, and not that I really worry about it, but the thing that I think about is like everybody in that second half of the season is going to, at some point people are going to go into panic mode because if they start early, if they stack 8-9 wins in those first 9 weeks, that they're not going 9 and they're probably going to be in that last set of games, maybe 4-3.
Yeah, I think. So my prediction, I had them going starting at 9-0, but finishing the season 13-4.
Okay, so they go 3-4 in the last 7.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to put people right. Like they're not going to look like. Let's be honest, Mike. Like we all drink the Kool-Aid.
Yep. Totally, for sure.
Nobody's going to remember the first 9 weeks of the season. They're going to be like, "Oh, we're 3-4 going into the playoffs."
Worst time to, they're playing the worst right now. They played all season, heading into the playoffs.
But that 5-week stretch coming out of the bye, man.
Yep.
Talk about they got the fucking shaft on that.
It was a KC, Buffalo, Dallas, Seattle. There's one more I'm missing.
So they come out of the bye. They're at Kansas City on a Monday night. And then they come back and they play Buffalo at home on Sunday afternoon. They play San Francisco.
San Francisco is the one I'm missing.
And then they play at Dallas, at Seattle.
San Francisco is the one game I'm tired of the San Francisco players bitching and moaning. That's one game you have to win.
So, and that's the one I was going to ask you about it because I don't get it. I don't get they're so butthurt.
They had to change the rule. The rule got approved. They have to change the rule because of them. Yeah,
I saw that today.
Yep.
Now you're getting you get to dress the emergency quarterback, even though he doesn't really count against the 53-man roster.
All right.
I don't get why they feel so like that one player was going to drastically and dramatically affect the outcome of that game.
Yeah, their fifth string quarterback was really going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, give me a break. Or he would have gotten hurt because you put a backup tight end on Hassan Reddick, the best pass rusher in the league. Like, give me a break.
That's your fault. Like,
right.
Like, stop being mad at us.
Yeah.
Be mad at your guys. And the craziest thing is like everybody. It's Deebo Samuel. It's Shanahan. It's not even just like the cherry Kool-Aid fan base. It's the players. I don't get what they're not seeing because normally players are able to kind of I listen to a lot of the New Heights podcasts with the Kelseys,
Yep,
and
they're
it
doing great
is
stuff.
interesting to hear the in-person perspective.
Totally.
And it seems like both of those guys are kind of able to take a step back and actually look at it for what it is. Where I feel like these guys on San Fran, they just don't get it. They're
zero
so
accountability.
Focused on it.
Yep.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, man.
No, zero accountability, which tells me it's a lot of it's coaching. Like the fact that he's not accountable.
Yeah, 100%. But I think you're gonna end up stacking wins early. I think and here's the other thing that I hate. I hate that you play both Giants games within 3 weeks.
It's weird. I don't like it either.
At the end of the season. Like
Yep.
You play them in week 16 and then in week 18.
18, yep.
And the last couple of years, that week 18 game has been a throwaway game.
Well, it hasn't even mattered, yeah.
So
like I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to save the rivalries at the end of the season. Hopefully it means something, bigger rate. I get it. But
spread that out.
Right.
You don't play an in-division game until week 8.
Right.
Like when they play Washington and Dallas in week 8 and 9.
And I think they finished with Washington fairly early, right? Or do I have that wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right. So they play Washington in week 4 and week 8.
Yeah.
So it's like you
well,
get
the schedule makers are looking at that saying Washington's going to be terrible. The game down the stretch isn't going to mean anything anyway.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I still like where they are, man. The draft is super. The draft was super impressive.
Yep.
The fact that you walk away essentially with Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, and you essentially gave up absolutely nothing.
Nope.
Sidney Brown looks every bit like he's just going to walk in and right into that starting strong safety role. And Keely Ringo is another kid from Georgia who they're going to, could take over the slot, could battle Greedy Williams. They just got a lot of talent.
And they're going to be fun for sure.
Yeah, and you got essentially, even though they lost Hargrave, and you're not going to replace the production, but they got younger and more athletic, maybe.
Yeah, that's possible. I think Carter's going to be great. I know there were questions about his work ethic and the off the field, so I think he's going to be great. I think he's a hell of a talent.
I think he just needed a good spot.
Yep.
I think he needed a good landing spot.
A stable front office that can coach him with a bunch of veterans on the defense, guys that he knows on the defense. I think it's perfect.
Yeah. So I like it. I like where they are. And I think, the understated move, right? Howie does it again in the middle of the draft and, trades for another established, proven talent. They bring in DeAndre Swift and add that, he's going to be your RB1 and, put him in a spot where, you saw how productive he was last year in Detroit, where they don't have as stable a line. And now you're going to put him behind this offensive line. And he's a guy that can catch the ball, get out in space on this offense.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of space.
Weapons all over the field, which, by the way, have you heard this DeAndre Hopkins thing now, apparently? I mean,
talk about it because I saw it today.
So I don't even know exactly where it stemmed from, but I think he was on some sort of show or podcast about the quarterbacks he'd like to play with or destinations he'd like to go to. Because did he formally request a trade or something? What's going on? I don't even know the full story.
So I don't know either. I know that he's unhappy in Arizona.
Yep.
I know that he's not happy about playing with Kyler Murray as much as he thought he would have been. It was on some kind of podcast show.
Yeah, he was talking about quarterbacks he like to play with and what he. Let me see if I can find.
Who would he like to catch a ball from?
Yeah, and Jalen Hurts was one of the 4 or 5 quarterbacks he named. Yeah. But they asked him what he would like in a team, and he's like, good defense, stable front office. He named a couple of things, and he basically said the Philadelphia Eagles without saying the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right.
And I'm here for it. I think it's probably close to impossible with how much money DeAndre Hopkins makes. They would have to eat a large chunk of that.
Yeah.
And even if they did, I don't know what that would cost you asset wise. But if
No.
you could, but just I mean, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, DeAndre Swift, and then you add DeAndre Hopkins to that. I mean, you're unstoppable. Nobody's stopping. It doesn't matter what your defense does because you're scoring 62 points a game.
Right, and I think and I know Dom dodged the Bijan Robinson bullet.
He did. Yep.
But that was essentially when Rich and I were always talking about it. The logic behind getting Bijan Robinson was just like put another bullet in the gun, man.
Yep.
You can. It's basically pick the guy who's going to affect you the least.
Right.
And then okay. So you took away that guy. All right, we're gonna throw the other guy. You're gonna take away AJ Brown. We're gonna go Devontae Smith. You're gonna take away the two guys on the outside. We're gonna go Dallas Goedert. Oh, you're gonna take away the passing game. We're gonna run the ball. Like
pick your poison. You will die slowly no matter what.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think the lesson was learned in the Super Bowl. You got it. Like the way that you are gonna win championships in this league is when you put up points.
Yep.
The defense
at the same time would have liked to get a stop in the Super Bowl.
Getting a stop on defense wouldn't have hurt anybody.
Right, exactly.
But
yep.
To me, I'm looking at it going, just give me offense. Give me the bullets. Yep. I'll put up. I'll win games. 45. 35 all season long, and just stack the W's. And I think they're still in a great spot. They're still young. That's
the thing. As great as their offense is, I don't think they're going to have to win games 45-38 or whatever. Like, no, you're right. I think their defense is still good.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like
they lost guys, but they really didn't get worse.
No.
And they got younger, which is wild.
Right. Like the one place where maybe you got a little worse, you lose Gardner Johnson, but
you know what's crazy, Mike? I was all for keeping him.
Yep.
After all that shit went down,
the way he's running his mouth,
it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It was like,
yep. But at the same time, that he did that in when he was with New Orleans, and we all kind of liked it. You know what I mean? But now that it affected us,
we did like that he was like the guy that would just talk a bunch of shit,
right? But that affects us. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah, and then he turns around. Now he's talking shit on you, and you're like, right, I don't like that much.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't like how he kind of just put it. He essentially took all the ownership and put it on everybody else.
Yeah, for sure.
But uberly talented guy. He's going to Detroit where they're going to have, they got a young up and coming defense.
Yep.
So, he went and got a big payday for a prove it deal on a 1-year deal, and he'll probably go back in the talent pool next year. But I think you got the kid that you got from Illinois could be a guy that could just step right into that role.
I hope so. I mean, it's a tough position to come to, right out of college, straight in the NFL and be productive. So I'm skeptical, but I'm hopeful, if that makes sense.
I agree.
I mean, playing defense in the NFL is hard enough with all the rules. You can't do anything. So,
yeah.
The guys are bigger, tougher, stronger in the NFL than college. So it's a tough spot to be in. To kind of get the role immediately.
I agree.
So,
all right, Mike. Talk to me about me about the Flyers. Because
there's nothing
on the Flyers in a minute.
There's nothing to talk about. No, what do you think of Keith Jones? I'm curious.
So I heard there was an interview that I heard.
Also, hold on, real quick before we get into the Flyers. I had one gripe about the NFL that I forgot to mention.
Oh, go ahead. I think I might be on the same train with you.
This exclusive game on Wild Card Weekend is absolute shenanigans on Peacock.
It's complete bullshit.
I understand the money grab in the regular season. You have the exclusive game here, the exclusive game there, but I think having an exclusive game where you're limiting the people that are going to watch your product in the playoffs. Sure, you're going to get a lot of money from the deal. I don't even know what the number was. You're going to get a lot of money from that.
It's $110 million.
That's a lot of money up front, whatever. I think it's so short-sighted because I think you are going to lose viewers in the long term. And maybe that's not what they're thinking, but I think it's an incredibly short-sighted move to just get the money now. Playoff games, you should be able to find playoff games easily. What in 5 years, what are we gonna have to go to fucking Amazon Prime to watch the goddamn Super Bowl? What's gonna happen? Well, I mean, you're selling a wildcard game for $110 million. Could you imagine what you're gonna sell Super Bowl for? $500 million?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But so here's what I did find out. So I felt the same way. I was like, it's insanely short-sighted to take that level of a game and put it in a position where you have to have this subscription in order to get it. And listen, we're all in that position right now, right? Yep. We're all whether you got cable, whether you got YouTube TV or Hulu or Netflix or whatever, we're all in this a la carte thing, right? So it's we'll fucking add another one. To me, though, it's such a fucking money grab to be you don't have enough fucking money, because I'm sure what ended up happening, right? It's $110 million. There's 30 the 30 whatever teams. Everybody, all right, everybody gets another $3.5 million, right? Distributed all around the league. And I'm like, y'all don't have enough fucking money right now.
Right, yeah. The 3.5, 4 million is really going to be a lot to your $2 billion that you have. Yep.
Here's what I did find out, though. The games will be available on regular TV in those markets. So whatever two teams are in those markets, you know how sometimes if the game is on ESPN, it's also on 6 ABC?
Yep.
It'll be very similar to that. Okay. So if you're in that market, you'll have the ability to still be able to watch the game.
I still think it's short-sighted. I still don't like
agree.
It.
Because you're making it harder to find.
Exactly. And Peacock's confusing. But I technically have Peacock with my Xfinity subscription, but I don't have the premium version of Peacock. Do I need the premium version of Peacock? Nobody knows the answers to these questions.
It's annoying.
Yep.
Stop making things more difficult.
Right. Make it easier for me to watch your product.
And listen, Mike, I would argue that the MLS did something very similar, right? Because all of their games are on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I can't watch the fucking Union game if I don't have Apple TV Plus.
All of their games.
Everything.
Wow.
That's a big deal. And it's not on local TV, right?
That's crazy.
That shit should be on Comcast Sportsnet.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's on one of those exclusive subscriptions, it should still be available in some way on some kind of local market.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's just on Apple. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Because I know Apple TV, I don't know if
they're growing. That's a growing, that league is growing exponentially.
Yeah, and I know I don't know if they do it this year, but I know last year Apple TV did the Friday night baseball games. But that was okay. But that's just once a week. Mm-hmm. The teams vary. You don't really notice it because baseball's 6-7 days a week anyway, so you don't really notice it. But to have every single one of your games on Apple TV is crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know. But maybe I don't know. To me that's not going to grow the game the way it should. Because it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to watch a game.
If you're making it harder to find and watch your product, it's not a great thing.
Yep. All right, talk to me about the Flyer. Sorry to cut you off.
No, so I heard a couple. I've heard Keith Jones on a couple of interviews. I like the perspective that he's coming with in terms of knowing that in order to turn this franchise around, it's going to be a build.
Yep.
I like that he's coming here with a perspective that he's invested in the team, that he's going to be working side by side with Danny Briere. I like that there's a new, fresh perspective because I've heard in the conversations during the interview, heard him talk about this team's got to get younger. It's got to get more athletic. It's got to get faster. We got to be better at drafting. We got to be better at mining talent. He spoke about himself, right? Got to be better at, finding late guys later in the round, developing that talent, bringing that talent along. But when they're picking at the top of the draft, being able to identify the top end talent. So I like that it's a fresh perspective. I didn't hear anywhere in there anything about like doing things the traditional Flyers way, which I was like very happy to hear, because I'm like, that whole mindset and perspective has to change, because hockey is not there at this point. Hockey is
100%.
young and fast and athletic.
Right, and I think you do need the muckers and grinders to win. I
On
think it is
some level.
important. Well, I think it's important for the depth guy. Like, if you look at like a team like Tampa, they had the Stamkoses, they had the Kucherovs, they had the Vasilevskis, the Hedmans, and then when they built those guys, then they went out and got the Blake Colemans. They got
Correct.
They got all the muckers and grinders to fill out the bottom of that lineup, because, I mean, the playoffs are a dogfight. But yeah, I mean, building top end talents is the number one goal and priority, and they haven't, like, the last star. Who's the last star they drafted? I mean, Claude Giroux, hands down, and that was, they drafted him in what, 2000? What year was that? 6? 2006, I think. Oh, JVR, I think it was 07. So I think Giroux was 06, I believe. Right?
Yeah, I think you're right. But it's, I don't know. So I know that it's going to be a slow burn, right? I know that this is not going to turn around next season. But I do like that there's a new direction.
Yep.
Because you're not Thelma and Louise driving off the cliff, going like, oh, we're just going to keep doing the same shit we've been doing.
But at the same time, it's funny because like they kind of did the same thing they always do. Like, they bring 2 former Flyers to run the franchise. You know what I mean? They're new voices, don't get me wrong, and they're not in the same elk as a Paul Holmgren or Bobby Clark. Like, they're new and they're fresh.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they did hire former Flyers.
They did, but I do like the fact that it's not the same rhetoric. It's not the same stuff over and over and over and over and over again. Because this team needs, they need to turn it around in a way where you don't completely alienate the fan base, because you started to see that.
Well, that's why they go out and get Keith Jones, because the fan base loves Keith Jones. So he was definitely, what's the word? I don't even know the right term, but he was definitely kind of there to bridge the gap between the fan base and the organization.
I agree. So, any thought? I know at some point we'll probably touch base with Mark and try to get some hockey stuff on the docket. But
totally.
Any thoughts about the draft?
I haven't done a deep dive yet. But it's so that's the thing. It sucks that like Chicago, really, they had to win the lottery again. They just get lucked out. But Will Smith, I would really like.
Okay.
I don't know if he'll be there. The one interesting one is Matvei Michkov, the Russian.
The Russian kid, yeah.
He's projected to go anywhere from 4 to 8. Yeah, I don't know if he's there. I don't know what they would do if they would take him. He's obviously a big risk. I'll tell you, if he does get to the Flyers and they pass on him, he's going at 8, because I think it makes so much sense with the Washington Capitals and Alexander Ovechkin, and I think that would be a slam dunk. And Ovechkin's boys with Putin, he might even be able to get him over sooner. Who knows? Like, he might be in a Capitals jersey next year. Like,
there's gonna be a video that's gonna come out like the day before the draft of him like smoking a bong, Laramie Tunsil style.
Yeah,
sabotage it all the way to make sure that he gets to 8.
Yeah, right.
I'm hoping that they're able to get a guy, because it's like in a year where all you had to do was just suck. They played not as sucky as they could have.
That's a John Tortorella effect. Yep.
And that's, Mike, he came in to this franchise a year too soon.
Agreed.
They would have been better off having an interim coach.
Yep.
Play all the young guys, see whatever kind of pieces you had to be able to build around moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying you go out there and intentionally lose games, but you play your young end talent, right? But the problem that Tortorella got too much out of these guys.
Right. Well, I think Fletcher realized the seat was hot, and he was just trying to save his job and get as many wins as he could.
Mm-hmm. But in doing so, you put yourself in a far worse position.
Right.
You put yourself like just outside that really top end talent pool.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of highlights of Zach Benson recently.
Okay.
He's forward, flashy. He's fast as shit. He's smaller. He's like 5'7", 5'8", but he can fly and has hands.
They need somebody like that.
I'm intrigued by Zach Benson. Yeah.
So do you think there's any chance they trade up? Like
if they trade
new front office, like flat, like do they try to do something flashy?
So I know Briere is talking about the potential of moving up. So I don't think they're going up to 1 or 2. Obviously, like if you're the Blackhawks, you're not like they tanked to get Connor Bedard. They're not trading that pick.
Right.
The Ducks, Adam Fantilli's a great consolation prize. I don't think the Ducks are going to move out of 2 either. 3 is kind of where things start to get interesting. But Leo Carlson's probably the projected number 3 pick. Center, he's great. He's probably right NHL ready.
Okay.
But the Columbus Blue Jackets own that pick, and I don't know why they would trade that in the division. I just don't.
Right.
I think Carlson's a good player to have. You just signed Johnny Gaudreau. He's kind of a good combination to Johnny Gaudreau. Maybe you move up to 4 with the Sharks. But at that point, who do you want? Right? Is there a drop off between Will Smith and Zach Benson, who you might be able to get at 4, you might be able to get at 7? Like, how big is a drop off from 4 to 7? So could they move up to 4? Possibly. I guess it depends on who their guy is.
I agree.
So we'll see. Draft's coming up. What, about a month? I think it's late June. Right?
Yeah, late June. So you got a couple weeks.
July 7th and 8th. That can't be right, is it? No, that was last year. Why is it? Okay, never mind. It was last year. Hold on. Why did that come up as last year's date? June 28th. That sounds better. All right, that makes more sense.
All right, so you got a couple weeks.
Yep, about a month. So we'll see.
Anything else burning a hole in your pocket you want to talk about?
I don't. One thing I will mention, we've been teasing kind of on Twitter, is that June 24th, we've kind of hooked up with the Bell Smashers podcast, Drunk Phil's fans, and Carter Hot Media. There you go. I gotta say it the right way. To have the K-Lot tailgate, Phillies game, fuck the Mets tailgate. I recommend everybody be there. I think it's gonna be a great time. I'll be there. Dom will be there. It's gonna be a great time. You gonna stop by?
I'm gonna try. I'm trying to see what the schedule looks like around that weekend, but I'm gonna try to figure out something to make it work, and we're trying to coordinate some times with the Drunk Phil's guys to do one of the shows from the garage.
Okay, yeah. So I actually just talked to him. When did I talk to him? A few weeks ago. We spent about a half hour on the phone, just kind of shooting shit a little bit. Really nice guy over there. Their social media is awesome. I enjoy it.
They have, if you have not checked them out, they have such a strong meme game.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
It's and the cool thing is, like, I've hung out with those guys over at Von C a couple times.
Okay. They're
like regular dudes.
Yep.
They're literally just regular dudes that are just really passionate about being Phil's fans.
Yep.
It's just that and they've got some cool merch. They've got a logo that kind of looks like a Miller High Life label. And they do a lot of really good stuff in the community. They sometimes they'll whatever they're selling proceeds, they're donating proceeds to various charities. So go check those guys out. It should be a great time.
And that garage bar you were talking about is awesome.
I'm kind of trying to coordinate schedules between Joe, Rich, and I to try to get at least 2 of us down there. We're kind of looking forward to connecting with those guys and definitely try to get something on the books for the summer.
Yep, Bell Smashers did a show from there. It looked awesome. Looked like a good time.
Yeah, no, it looks like a great time.
Yep, totally. We also launched a new store, firedupsports.com/store, and everybody can check that out. A lot of good stuff over there. So just had to mention that. Anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here? Any final thoughts?
So we'll probably do. I imagine we'll probably do a show this week. Joe and Rich and I, but this weekend, gonna do Drunk on the Court. Mark and I are gonna kind of wrap up the Sixers, put a wrap on the Sixers season, and then Sunday morning, Eric and I'll do we'll talk a little Phils on Sunday morning. So
guys love the morning pods.
You know what, the morning 7 the morning kind of 10 a.m. on the weekend, just get in, get out, do a little bit, and just trying to keep it current, just trying to keep the content current.
I'm usually sitting at my kitchen table. I got like a bagel with my coffee ready, and I'm like, the guys went live. Let me check it out real quick.
Listen, I'm sure you're getting ready for those the T-ball Devil Rays games.
Yes, we have a game Thursday, I believe.
Nice.
Thursday, yeah. Coach Rich, he's it's been a fun year. We have 4 games left.
That's awesome.
I'll tell you, dude, his kid has an absolute arm. My goodness, kid's got.
He was telling me, he's like, if he's got a ball in his hand, it's like a rocket. But like, if you put anything else in his hand, he's like, it could go in 73 different directions.
Well, I mean, listen, that's like, that could happen. He's got an arm, so if he like looks away or whatever, he'll throwing it, far as shit. 4, you gotta watch out. Yeah, he's got an arm though, for sure.
That's funny.
It is, but anyway. Don, thank you for joining.
Absolutely.
This week. And yeah, hopefully you have Dom and Chris back next week. But we'll see everybody next Monday. See ya.